Rachel's hand shook as she slipped the napkin beside the champagne glass. The billionaire hadn't noticed her yet. Nobody ever did. She was just another server in a black uniform weaving through the Peninsula Hotel ballroom. But the note she'd just placed next to David Harrington's plate would change that. 3 sentences. 22 words that could destroy her life or finally make him see what he'd done. Her pulse hammered in her throat as she stepped back into the crowd of servers. Any second now he would read it. Sometimes a single act of courage changes more than a lifetime of silence. Before this story unravels, ask yourself, what would you do if the person who ruined your life stood right in front of you? If stories like this make you think about power and truth, hit subscribe now. Let's keep uncovering hidden stories that deserve to be heard. She'd planned this moment for 3 years. 3 years since Marcus died because they couldn't afford his cancer treatment. 3 years since Harrington's company gutted MediSupply Solutions overnight and left her husband without health insurance. 3 years of watching this man's face on magazine covers while she worked 3 jobs to pay off medical debt that never should have existed. And tonight at his own charity gala, surrounded by crystal chandeliers and people who spent more on wine than she made in a month, Rachel Martinez had decided to stop being invisible. Harrington sat at table 1, the center of everything. His laugh carried across the ballroom. That same laugh she'd heard on the news when reporters asked about the MediSupply acquisition. Just business, he'd said then. Just business. Like Marcus wasn't real. Like the 37 other employees who lost everything weren't real. Like Lily asking why Daddy wasn't coming home wasn't real. Rachel gripped her serving tray tighter. Her supervisor would fire her for this. Child services might come after her. She could lose custody of Lily. But staying quiet meant Marcus died for nothing. She watched Harrington from across the room. He wore a tuxedo that cost more than her rent. His date laughed at something he said. A waiter refilled his champagne. The same brand Marcus used to bring home on special occasions back when they could afford special occasions. Back when he was alive. Rachel's chest tightened. She'd memorized Harrington's face from business articles. Square jaw, perfect teeth, eyes that never seemed to blink. He looked exactly like someone who'd never had to choose between medicine and groceries. His hand reached for the champagne glass. His eyes dropped to the napkin beside it. Rachel stopped breathing. This was it. The moment 3 years of rage and grief came down to 22 words written in her shaky handwriting. Harrington picked up the napkin. His smile didn't fade yet. He was still laughing at whatever his date had said. Then he read the first line. The smile froze. He read the second line. Color drained from his face. He read the third line. His hand started shaking. Rachel had written the note 10 minutes earlier in the service hallway. Her hand had trembled so hard she'd almost couldn't form the letters. She'd stood there with a pen stolen from the hotel front desk and a cocktail napkin and thought about Lily. Her daughter was 6 years old. She was home right now with Mrs. Chun from downstairs. Lily thought Mommy was working a fancy party. She didn't know Mommy was about to commit career suicide. She didn't know Mommy had spent the last week planning this moment, rehearsing it, imagining Harrington's face when he realized that his business decisions had names, had families, had consequences. The ballroom smelled like money, that specific scent of expensive perfume and fresh flowers, and the kind of confidence that came from never worrying about rent. Rachel had served at dozens of galas like this. She'd learned to move through rooms like furniture, invisible, necessary but unnoticed. She'd perfected the art of holding a tray steady while her feet screamed in cheap shoes. She'd mastered the smile that said, "Yes, sir," and "Right away, ma'am," while swallowing every real thought she'd ever had. Tonight was supposed to be the same. Show up, serve champagne, collect her paycheck, go home to Lily. But then she'd overheard Harrington talking. Table 1 had been her section. She'd approached with fresh champagne, and he'd been telling some story to the group around him. Something about a tough acquisition 3 years back. Had to make a hard call, he'd said. His companions had nodded. Sympathetic. Understanding. Like destroying a company full of people was just another item on a to-do list. Some businesses just aren't viable, Harrington had continued. Rachel's hands had frozen on the tray. MediSupply Solutions. He was talking about MediSupply Solutions, the company that employed Marcus. The company Harrington had acquired and gutted for parts. The company that disappeared so fast nobody had time to find new insurance. Rachel had kept moving, poured the champagne, smiled, said nothing, but something inside her cracked. She'd spent 3 years being quiet, being professional, surviving. She told herself that men like Harrington were untouchable, that servers didn't confront billionaires, that speaking up would only make things worse. But hearing him laugh about it, hearing him reduce Marcus's death to a business decision, something snapped. She'd set down her tray in the hallway, found a napkin, found a pen. Her supervisor had walked past and asked if she was okay. Rachel had nodded, lied, said she needed a minute. The supervisor had shrugged and kept moving. Rachel had stared at the blank napkin. She could walk back in there and finish her shift, go home, keep her job, keep her head down, keep surviving in a world designed to crush people like her. Or she could write the truth. Just once. Just 3 sentences. Just enough to make David Harrington know that Marcus Martinez existed, that he mattered, that his death wasn't just a line item in a quarterly report. Rachel's hand had moved across the napkin. The words came out shaky but clear. She'd folded the napkin, carried it back into the ballroom, walked straight to table 1 with her heart trying to break through her ribs, placed it next to his champagne glass like it was just another piece of table service, then stepped back and waited. Now Harrington was reading it, and there was no going back. The note said, "Your business decision killed my husband, Marcus Martinez. Tell my daughter why her daddy isn't coming home." Harrington read it twice. His date leaned over to ask what was wrong. He didn't answer. His eyes lifted from the napkin and scanned the ballroom. Rachel stood 15 feet away, still holding her empty tray, still wearing her server's uniform, still invisible to everyone except him. Their eyes met. For 3 seconds, the entire gala seemed to go silent. The orchestra kept playing. Guests kept laughing. Champagne kept flowing. But in that moment between Rachel and David Harrington, the world narrowed to just the 2 of them in 22 words that named what he'd done. Rachel saw it happen. The recognition in his face. Not of her specifically. He'd never met her before tonight. But recognition of the truth. Of being caught. Of having his carefully constructed world cracked open by a server with a napkin and the audacity to make him see what he'd spent 3 years not seeing. His jaw tightened. His hand crumpled the napkin. He said something to his date. She looked confused. He stood up. Rachel's supervisor appeared at her elbow. "Martinez, what did you do?" "I told the truth," Rachel said. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "You gave something to Mr. Harrington." It wasn't a question. The supervisor's face had gone pale. "Tell me you didn't bother a guest." "I gave him information he needed." Across the ballroom, Harrington was gesturing to someone. A man in a dark suit appeared. Security. Rachel knew what was coming next. She'd known when she wrote the note, when she placed it on his table, when she decided that 3 years of silence was enough. The security guard started walking toward her. Harrington followed. Guests were starting to notice, starting to whisper, starting to point at the server who'd done something wrong. Rachel set down her tray. Her hands had stopped shaking. She looked at Harrington as he approached. Really looked at him. Without fear. Without the automatic deference servers were supposed to show to men in expensive suits. She looked at him like an equal. Like someone whose husband he'd killed. Like someone who had every right to stand in this ballroom and say his name out loud. "Ma'am, you need to come with me," the security guard said. Rachel didn't move. She kept her eyes on Harrington. "Marcus Martinez," she said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. His name was Marcus Martinez. Harrington's face went white. He opened his mouth. No words came out. For the first time in his life, David Harrington had nothing to say. The security guard's hand closed around Rachel's arm. Not rough, not gentle, just firm enough to make the point clear. She was leaving. The supervisor followed behind them, whispering apologies to guests who'd stopped eating to watch. Rachel kept her chin up as they walked her through the ballroom, past tables of people in $1,000 dresses, past the orchestra still playing like nothing had happened, past David Harrington, who stood frozen by table 1 with her crumpled napkin still in his fist. The guard led her through a side door into the service corridor. The sounds of the gala cut off behind them. Suddenly, it was just fluorescent lights and concrete floors, and the smell of industrial cleaner. He released her arm. "Wait here," he said, then disappeared back through the door. Rachel leaned against the wall. Her legs felt weak. 3 years of planning, and it had lasted maybe 90 seconds. She'd said Marcus's name out loud in a room full of Chicago's wealthiest people. She'd made David Harrington speechless. And now she was fired. Definitely fired. The supervisor would come out any second with her final paycheck. And a speech about professional conduct. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen. Rachel turned. A man stood near the staff break room. Late 50s. Gray hair. Server's uniform identical to hers. He held a water bottle out to her. "I'm James," he said. "I saw what you did in there." Rachel took the water. Her hands were shaking again. "I just lost my job." "Probably." James smiled. "It wasn't mean. Just honest. But you made him look at you. That's more than most people ever do." "You know Harrington? I've served him for 5 years. Every gala, every fundraiser, every time he comes to Chicago." James glanced at the door to the ballroom. He's not used to people talking back. "Have you seen him react like that before? To something someone said?" James hesitated. "Once. 2 years ago. Different server. Different event. Same look on his face when she mentioned her brother's company going under." He lowered his voice. "She quit the next day. Just stopped showing up. I always wondered what happened to her." Rachel's pulse quickened. "What was the company?" "Tech startup. Something with medical software. Harrington's firm acquired it and shut it down within a month." James took a step closer. "Look, I don't know what your husband did or what happened, but I know Harrington. I've watched him for years. He's got a pattern." "What kind of pattern?" "After these events, he always goes to the same place. Private office on the 40th floor. Stays there for hours." James pulled out his phone and showed Rachel a photo. An office building 3 blocks from a hotel. Sometimes he takes files up with him. Sometimes he just sits there. But he goes every single time after gala. Like clockwork. Rachel stared at the photo. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're the first person I've seen actually confront him. The first person who wasn't afraid." James pocketed his phone. "And because my daughter had cancer 3 years ago. We got lucky. She survived. But our insurance didn't cover half the treatment. We almost lost our house." His jaw tightened. Men like Harrington make decisions that kill people, and nobody ever makes them answer for it. The door to the ballroom opened. The supervisor stepped through. She looked at Rachel with something between pity and anger. "Martinez, get your things. You're done." Rachel nodded. She'd expected this. But as she walked toward the employee locker room, James called after her. 40th floor. Building on Michigan Avenue. He'll be there in about an hour." The supervisor shot James a warning look. He shrugged and headed back to the ballroom. Rachel grabbed her coat and purse from her locker. Inside her purse was Marcus's old employee ID badge. She carried it everywhere. A reminder of what she'd lost, what Harrington had taken. She touched the plastic edge, then pulled out her phone and typed the address James had given her into her maps. One confrontation wasn't enough. Not even close. Rachel sat in her car outside the Peninsula Hotel and let the memories come. She was 24 years old again, standing in the parking lot of MediSupply Solutions on a Tuesday morning. Marcus had just gotten the email. The entire company got it at the same time. Subject line: important announcement regarding acquisition. Rachel had driven over on her lunch break from the diner where she waitressed. She'd found Marcus sitting in his truck with his phone in his hands and tears on his face. "We've been acquired," he'd said. "Harrington Industries. Effective immediately." Rachel hadn't understood what that meant. Acquired sounded official, professional, like maybe it was good news. Marcus had worked at MediSupply for 6 years. He was a logistics coordinator, good at his job, well-liked. He'd just gotten promoted. They'd celebrated with dinner at the Italian place they couldn't really afford. She was pregnant with Lily. Everything was finally working out. "Is that bad?" Rachel had asked. Marcus had showed her the rest of the email. All employees would be evaluated for retention. Benefits would be restructured during the transition period. The Chicago office would be consolidated with Harrington's existing facilities. More information to come. 3 weeks later, MediSupply Solutions no longer existed. The building was empty. Harrington Industries had taken the patents and client list and shut everything else down. 37 employees got severance packages and job search assistance. Marcus wasn't one of them. He'd been classified as redundant. His position had been eliminated. His health insurance ended on his last day of work. Rachel remembered that last day, March 15th. Marcus had come home with a box of desk supplies and his company ID badge. He'd set the box on their kitchen table and told her he'd find something new. He always did. He was good with logistics. Someone would hire him. They just needed to be careful with money until then. Lily was born 2 months later, a perfect, healthy baby girl who screamed her way into the world and immediately owned their hearts. Marcus had held her in the hospital and promised he'd give her everything, every opportunity, every chance he'd never had. Rachel had believed him. She'd looked at her husband holding their daughter and felt like the luckiest woman alive. The cancer diagnosis came 4 months after that. Stage 3, aggressive, treatable, but expensive. Marcus had found a new job by then, warehouse work. The pay was worse than MediSupply, but the insurance was decent, except there was a waiting period for pre-existing conditions. The cancer counted as pre-existing because he'd had symptoms before his coverage started. So the insurance wouldn't pay. Not for 6 months. Not until the waiting period ended. 6 months might as well have been forever. The oncologist had been clear. Treatment needed to start immediately. Every week of delay reduced his chances. So they paid out of pocket, sold Marcus's truck, maxed out credit cards, borrowed from Rachel's parents. The hospital set up a payment plan. It still wasn't enough. Rachel remembered sitting in the financial counselor's office. The woman had been kind, sympathetic. She'd outlined options, charity care programs, payment extensions, clinical trials, but the most effective treatment wasn't covered by any of those options. It cost $60,000, money they'd never have. What happens if we can't afford it? Rachel had asked. The counselor had looked down at her paperwork. We'll do everything we can with the resources available. Marcus had chosen Lily's future over his own. He'd told Rachel to save the money, pay off the debt they'd already accumulated, make sure Lily had what she needed. He'd take the cheaper treatment. He'd fight with what they could afford. He'd beat this thing. He had to. He'd lasted 7 months. Near the end, when the pain was so bad he could barely speak, he'd grabbed Rachel's hand and whispered his last real words to her. Tell Lily I tried. Tell her I want to stay. Rachel had promised. She'd told him she would. She told him Lily would know her daddy loved her, that he'd fought as hard as he could, that it wasn't his fault, but it was someone's fault. Marcus didn't die because cancer was inevitable. He died because David Harrington destroyed MediSupply Solutions and took away their insurance during the exact moment they needed it most. He died because business decisions had consequences that men like Harrington never had to see. Rachel opened her eyes. She was still sitting in her car outside the hotel. Her phone said 40 minutes had passed. She touched Marcus's ID badge in her purse. 40th floor, Michigan Avenue. Harrington would be there. She started the engine. Rachel didn't go to the 40th floor that night. She went home instead, paid Mrs. Chun, kissed Lily goodnight, lay in bed staring at the ceiling until dawn. Then she started digging. Her laptop was 6 years old and ran slow, but it worked. Rachel made coffee and opened Google. She typed, David Harrington acquisitions. The search returned thousands of results. Business journals, trade publications, press releases about successful mergers and strategic expansions. She refined the search. David Harrington failed companies. Better. Articles about Harrington Industries' aggressive acquisition strategy. How they identified undervalued companies, bought them cheap, extracted value, moved on. Rachel scrolled through pages of results. Most of the articles praised Harrington's business acumen, visionary, bold, willing to make tough decisions. She wanted to throw her laptop across the room. Instead, she kept digging. She found a business forum where former employees discussed their experiences. One thread caught her eye. Anyone else lose everything to Harrington Industries? 43 comments. Rachel read every one. A woman whose husband worked at a pharmaceutical packaging company. acquired and gutted in 2019. A man whose sister lost her job at a medical equipment manufacturer, acquired and dissolved in 2020. A software engineer who watched his startup disappear overnight, acquired in 2021. The pattern was there, clear as day. Harrington targeted medical industry companies, small ones, the kind with good patents but thin profit margins. He bought them, stripped them, shut them down. Rachel opened a new tab and searched for lawsuits against Harrington Industries. She found 3, all settled out of court, all sealed with non-disclosure agreements. She found one name that kept appearing in older articles. Patricia Chun, Boston, 2020. Her husband had worked for Chun Medical Devices. Harrington acquired the company 6 weeks before it was set to release a new surgical tool. The acquisition killed the project. Chun Medical Devices closed. Patricia's husband had a heart attack 3 months later. The stress, the job loss, the financial ruin. Patricia had tried to sue. The case disappeared from public records after preliminary hearings. Rachel searched for Patricia Chun on social media. Nothing on Facebook, nothing on Instagram. No public presence at all, like she'd vanished or been silenced. Rachel tried LinkedIn, found an old profile, inactive for 3 years. But there was an email address, a Gmail account, probably abandoned, probably useless. Rachel copied it anyway and opened her own email. She stared at the blank message. What did you say to a stranger whose grief mirrored your own? How did you ask for help from someone who'd already lost? Rachel's fingers moved across the keyboard. My name is Rachel Martinez. My husband worked for MediSupply Solutions in Chicago. David Harrington's company acquired it in 2022. My husband lost his insurance during cancer treatment. He died 7 months later. I just confronted Harrington at a gala. I think you understand why. I found your name in old articles about Chun Medical Devices. If you're willing to talk, I'm willing to listen. She added her phone number, hit send, expected nothing. The response came 4 hours later. I've been waiting 3 years for someone like you. Check your phone. Rachel's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. No words, just a file attachment. She downloaded it. Her hands shook as she opened the PDF. Internal emails. Harrington Industries. Dated 6 months before the MediSupply acquisition. The subject line read, Strategic Target Analysis, MediSupply Solutions. Rachel read the first email. A VP of Acquisitions writing to Harrington directly. MediSupply fits the profile. Strong patent portfolio. Weak balance sheet. Recent R&D costs have them over-leveraged. We can acquire at 40% below market value. Recommend immediate action before Q3 results improve their position. Harrington's response was one line. Proceed. Timeline. Another email. Acquisition complete. Integration timeline, 90 days. Redundancy analysis attached. Estimate 85% workforce reduction. Patent transfer to subsidiary complete. Rachel scrolled down, found another document. A spreadsheet listing MediSupply employees. Names, positions, salaries, insurance status. There was a column labeled retention priority. Most entries said eliminate. Marcus's name was there. Row 41, logistics coordinator. Retention priority, eliminate. He'd never had a chance. Harrington had decided to destroy his job before the acquisition was even public. Before Marcus knew his company was being sold. Before they had any warning to find new insurance. Harrington had calculated the exact number of people he'd leave jobless. And he'd done it anyway. Rachel kept scrolling. Found more emails. More companies. More spreadsheets with more names marked eliminate. Dozens of families. Hundreds of people. All reduced to data points in Harrington's profit calculations. There was another email from 8 months ago. A memo about reputation management. Someone on Harrington's team had flagged potential publicity risks from former employees. Suggested preemptive legal action and media monitoring. The last line of the memo made Rachel's blood run cold. Recommend aggressive response to any public complaints. Discredit sources immediately. Standard protocol. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Rachel answered. Did you read them? A woman's voice. Tired. Careful. Yes. I have more. Emails. Financial records. Proof that he knew people would lose coverage. Proof that he didn't care. Patricia Chin paused. But Rachel, you need to understand something. I tried to expose him. I lost everything. My house. My savings. My reputation. Harrington has lawyers and PR teams and money that doesn't run out. He destroys people who challenge him. I know. And you're still going to try? Rachel looked at Marcus's ID badge on her desk. I already started. Patricia was quiet for a long moment. Then you need to be ready, because he's already coming for you. The first sign came the next morning. Rachel woke up to a text from her supervisor at the country club, where she worked weekend brunch shifts. Our management let you go. They didn't give a reason. Rachel sat up in bed. Her heart started pounding. She called the supervisor. Voicemail. She called the club's main number. The manager picked up. I heard I was fired? Rachel kept her voice steady. We received information about your conduct at another venue. The club has standards we need to maintain. What information? I'm not at liberty to discuss it. Your final check will be mailed. The line went dead. Rachel stared at her phone. The gala had been less than 24 hours ago. How did the country club already know? She called her third job. The coffee shop on Randolph Street where she worked morning shifts 3 days a week. The owner answered. Rachel, I was just about to call you. Let me guess. You're letting me go. Silence. Then, someone called this morning. Said you've been unstable at work. That you harassed a customer at another job. That you might be a liability. That's not true. I believe you. But they said legal action might be involved. I can't afford to be caught up in something like that. I'm sorry. The owner's voice cracked. She actually sounded sorry. I'll give you 2 weeks severance. It's the best I can do. 2 weeks severance wouldn't cover groceries. Rachel thanked her and hung up. 3 jobs, gone in 1 morning. She had rent due in 12 days. Lily's daycare cost $400 a month. The medical debt payment was $200. Even without food or utilities, she was short. Way short. Her phone rang. She didn't recognize the number. She answered anyway. Ms. Martinez? This is Alan Wu. I'm your landlord's attorney. Rachel's stomach dropped. What's this about? We've received complaints from other tenants regarding disturbances in your unit. Loud arguments. Possible substance use. Child welfare concerns. That's insane. I live alone with my 6-year-old daughter. There are no disturbances. We have documentation from 3 separate tenants. Then they're lying, or someone paid them to lie. Rachel's voice rose. Let me guess. You got these complaints yesterday? Right after I confronted David Harrington. Wu paused. I don't know what you're talking about. The complaints are dated over the past 2 weeks. That's impossible. Nevertheless, the landlord is considering terminating your lease. You'll receive formal notice within 72 hours. Wu hung up. Rachel looked at Lily's bedroom door. Her daughter was still asleep, still safe, still completely unaware that their entire life was crumbling. Rachel's hand shook. She wanted to scream, to throw something, to drive to Harrington's office and make him see what he was doing. Instead, she took a breath, then another. She needed to think. Her phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. Check your email. Now. Rachel opened her laptop. New message from Patricia. Subject, this is what he does. The email contained a link to a news article. Chicago Tribune, published 4 hours ago. Rachel clicked it. Local woman confronts businessman at charity gala. Raises questions about mental health. The article described an unnamed server who disrupted a Peninsula Hotel fundraiser by harassing prominent tech investor David Harrington. Sources described the woman as erratic and aggressive. The piece quoted a hotel spokesperson expressing concern for the woman's well-being and noting that she'd been terminated for violating professional conduct policies. There was a statement from Harrington's publicist. Brief, sympathetic, devastating. Mr. Harrington was approached by a distressed individual making unfounded accusations. He has great compassion for those struggling with grief and mental health challenges. His thoughts are with this woman and her family. He hopes she receives the help she needs. Rachel read it 3 times. Every word was poison-wrapped in kindness. Distressed individual. Unfounded accusations. Mental health challenges. He'd painted her as unstable. Delusional. Someone to pity, not believe. And he'd done it without ever saying her name. Another text from Patricia. He's just getting started. Rachel's phone rang again. Different number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Ms. Martinez? This is Jennifer Moss from the Department of Children and Family Services. We received a report regarding possible neglect of a minor child in your care. Rachel's world stopped. What? The report alleges you're working excessive hours and leaving your daughter unsupervised. Also mentions recent erratic behavior and possible substance abuse. We need to schedule a home visit to assess the situation. I don't abuse substances. I work 3 jobs to pay off my husband's medical debt. My daughter is never unsupervised. This is retaliation. Rachel's voice broke. David Harrington is doing this because I called him out. I'm not familiar with that name, ma'am. We're simply following up on a report filed through our hotline. The caller was anonymous, but provided specific details about your circumstances. Of course they were anonymous. Rachel pressed her palm against her forehead. When do you need to do this visit? Within 48 hours. I'll call tomorrow to schedule a time. The call ended. Rachel sat frozen. He was taking everything. Her jobs, her apartment, her daughter. Every pressure point in her life was suddenly under attack. Coordinated, systematic, efficient, just like his business acquisitions. Identify vulnerabilities, apply pressure, eliminate the threat. Her phone buzzed one more time. Patricia again. He did the same thing to me. Made me look crazy, made me unemployable, kept pushing until I broke. That's his pattern. He doesn't just beat you, he erases you. Rachel stared at the message. Then she looked at Lily's bedroom door again, at Marcus's ID badge, at the emails Patricia had sent proving Harrington knew exactly what his decisions cost. She texted Patricia back. Then I won't break. The email arrived at 2 in the morning. Rachel was still awake. She'd been awake for 30 hours straight, researching, planning, trying to figure out how to fight someone with infinite resources and zero conscience. Her laptop screen was the only light in the apartment. Lily slept in the next room. The DCFS visit was scheduled for tomorrow afternoon. Rachel had cleaned the apartment 3 times, organized every piece of documentation, proving she was a fit mother, prepared answers to questions she knew they'd ask. The email subject line said, I work for him. I know what he did. Rachel's hand froze on the mouse. She checked the sender. Nicole Brooks. The address was a personal Gmail account, not corporate. Rachel clicked it open. Ms. Martinez, my name is Nicole Brooks. I was David Harrington's executive assistant for 8 years. I quit 2 years ago. I've been following the news about your confrontation at the Gala. I've been waiting for someone like you, someone brave enough to make him see what he's done. I have information you need. Call. A phone number followed. Rachel stared at it. This could be a trap. Harrington could have sent someone to gain her trust, to get her to say something incriminating, to build a case that she was harassing him. She looked at the clock. 2:15 a.m. Too late to call. Or maybe the perfect time. People told the truth at 2 in the morning. Rachel dialed. Nicole answered on the first ring. You actually called. You said you have information. I do. But first I need to know something. Why did you confront him? What did he do to you? Rachel's throat tightened. He killed my husband. Not directly. Directly enough. He destroyed the company that employed my husband. My husband lost his health insurance during cancer treatment. He died because we couldn't afford the care that would have saved him. Rachel's voice came out flat, exhausted. Harrington made a business decision. My husband paid for it with his life. Nicole was quiet for a long moment. He did the same thing to my father. Rachel sat up straighter. What? Not Harrington personally, but the same kind of man, same kind of company, same kind of business decision. Nicole's voice shook. I was 12 years old. My father worked for a manufacturing company in Detroit. They got acquired by a private equity firm. New owners gutted the pension fund, eliminated health benefits. My father had diabetes. Without insurance, he couldn't afford his medication. He died when I was 14. I'm sorry. Don't be. Just listen. Nicole took a breath. When I started working for Harrington, I didn't know his story. He never talked about his past. But one night, about 6 years ago, I was working late. He'd been drinking. He started talking about his father, how his dad worked for a medical device company in New York, how the company got bought out by a larger firm, how his father lost his job and his insurance. Rachel's chest tightened. When, 1992, Harrington was 16, his father had a heart condition, needed surgery, couldn't afford it without insurance. He died waiting for charity care approval. The pieces started connecting in Rachel's mind. So Harrington knows exactly what it's like. He knows that's what makes it worse. Nicole's voice went hard. He told me that night that he swore he'd never be powerless again, that he'd become so wealthy, so powerful, that no one could ever do to him what they did to his father. He said weak companies deserved to fail, that employees who couldn't adapt didn't deserve to survive. He actually said that, like his own father deserved to die. He became what he hated. Exactly. And I don't think he even sees it. In his mind, he's the hero of his own story. The kid who overcame tragedy and built an empire. He doesn't see the people he destroys along the way. Or maybe he does see them and just doesn't care anymore. Rachel stood up and walked to the window. The Chicago skyline glittered in the distance. Somewhere out there, Harrington was probably asleep in a penthouse. Comfortable, safe, protected by wealth her husband never had. Why are you telling me this? Rachel asked. Because I quit 2 years ago when I realized what he was doing. I'd seen the acquisition reports. I'd read the emails about workforce reductions. I'd type the memos about reputation management. I knew he was destroying families. But I told myself it was just business, that I was just doing my job. Nicole's voice cracked. Then I met a woman whose husband had worked for one of the companies Harrington acquired. She came to the office trying to get someone to listen. Security escorted her out. I watched it happen, and I saw my mother, desperate, powerless, begging people who didn't care. You quit that day? I quit that week. Gave 2 weeks' notice. Harrington didn't even ask why. I was replaceable, just like everyone else. Nicole paused. But before I left, I copied files, emails, financial records, documents showing his entire pattern. I've been holding on to them for 2 years, waiting for the right moment. Rachel's pulse quickened. What kind of documents? The kind that prove he knew exactly what his acquisitions would cost. The kind that show he targeted companies connected to his father's death. The kind that make it clear this isn't just business. It's revenge. Nicole's voice dropped to almost a whisper. Rachel, he's not destroying random companies. He's systematically targeting every business that was ever connected to the firm that killed his father. Your husband was collateral damage in a vendetta that's been going on for 30 years. Nicole sent the files 20 minutes later. 12 documents. Rachel downloaded them with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. She opened the first file. A corporate org chart from 1991. Wellington Medical Group. Harrington's father's employer. Rachel scanned the subsidiaries and partner companies listed at the bottom. Her breath caught. Abbott Pharmaceutical Solutions was listed there, the parent company of the firm that had denied coverage for Harrington's father's surgery. The same pharmaceutical company that later partnered with MediSupply Solutions on a drug distribution contract. The same company Marcus had worked with on logistics planning. Rachel opened the next file. An email from Harrington to his acquisitions team. Dated 2019. Subject: Target Priority List. The email listed 15 companies, all connected to Wellington Medical Group or its partners. Some were direct subsidiaries. Others were vendors. Others were founded by former Wellington executives. Next to each company name was a status update. 8 said acquired and dissolved. 4 said in progress. 3 said monitoring. MediSupply Solutions was number 12. Status: acquired and dissolved. Date: March 2022. Rachel scrolled down, found another email. Harrington responding to a question from his legal team about potential backlash from the MediSupply acquisition. The connection to Abbott Pharmaceutical makes this personal. My father died because Abbott denied his coverage claim while distributing record profits to shareholders. Any company that enabled Abbott's success is fair game. Proceed with acquisition. I don't care about the optics. Rachel read it again. My father died because Abbott denied his coverage claim. Harrington knew. He'd known exactly why he was targeting MediSupply. It wasn't random. It wasn't just business. It was revenge wrapped in corporate language and justified by profit margins. She opened another file. A private investigator's report commissioned by Harrington in 2015. The report traced every company and individual connected to his father's death. Board members who'd approved the coverage denial. Executives who'd profited from the cost-cutting measures. Partner companies that had enabled the business model. The report was 30 pages long. Thorough. Obsessive. The final page contained a handwritten note. Harrington's writing. Rachel recognized it from the leaked emails. They took my father. They took my childhood. They took any chance I had at being normal. I will take everything from them. Every company. Every dollar. Every legacy they tried to build. They will know what it feels like to lose everything. Rachel sat back. Her enemy wasn't just a ruthless businessman. He was a 16-year-old kid who'd watched his father die. A kid who turned his grief into a weapon and spent 3 decades wielding it against anyone connected to his trauma. Marcus had been collateral damage. So had the other 36 MediSupply employees. So had everyone at the other companies Harrington had destroyed. They'd all died, literally or professionally, because a teenager in 1992 had made a promise at his father's funeral. Rachel's phone rang. Nicole again. Did you read them? Yes. Then you understand. He's not going to stop. This isn't about money or power. It's about pain. He's trying to inflict the same pain he felt, over and over, on anyone who reminds him of what he lost. Rachel thought about Marcus, about the hospital, about Lily asking when Daddy was coming home. He succeeded. I know, but Rachel, there's something else you need to understand. Harrington's father wasn't innocent. Rachel frowned. What do you mean? I found medical records, old ones, from before the acquisition. Harrington's father knew he had a heart condition. He knew he needed surgery, but he didn't get it treated when he still had insurance. He waited. He was trying to save money, thought he could hold out until the condition stabilized. When the company got acquired and he lost coverage, it was too late. So he gambled and lost, basically. And Harrington has spent 30 years blaming everyone except his father for that choice. Nicole paused. His father made a decision, a bad one, and he paid for it, just like Harrington has made decisions that forced other people to pay. Rachel closed her eyes. The pattern was perfect, tragic, infuriating. Harrington's father had made a choice that cost him his life. Harrington had blamed the system. Then he'd become a system. Then he'd made choices that cost other people their lives. And now, their families were supposed to blame the system too. It was an endless cycle of grief, turned into cruelty, turned into more grief. Why are you really helping me? Rachel asked. Nicole was quiet for a long moment. Because I enabled him. For 8 years, I typed his emails and scheduled his meetings and made him coffee. I knew what he was doing. I knew people were suffering. And I told myself it wasn't my responsibility, that I was just an assistant, that I couldn't change anything. Her voice broke. Your husband died in 2022. I was still working for Harrington then. I probably typed the memo about the MediSupply acquisition. I might have scheduled the meeting where they decided to eliminate Marcus's position. I'm complicit in his death. You didn't know Marcus. I knew people like Marcus existed. I knew what the acquisitions cost. I chose not to care. Nicole took a shaky breath. I can't bring your husband back. I can help you make sure Harrington finally faces what he's done. Not just you, to everyone. Rachel looked at the documents spread across her screen. Proof of a 30-year vendetta. Evidence of systematic destruction. A pattern so clear it couldn't be denied. She had everything she needed to expose Harrington, to show the world who he really was. But would it matter? Would anyone care that a billionaire's cruelty had roots in childhood trauma? Would it change anything? There's one more file, Nicole said quietly. I sent it separately. Check your email. Rachel refreshed her inbox. New message from Nicole. No subject line. One attachment. Rachel downloaded it and opened the file. It was a medical record. Recent. From Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Patient name, Emma Harrington. Age 16. Diagnosis, Stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma, the same cancer Marcus had. Rachel's hands started shaking again. Rachel read the medical record 3 times. Emma Harrington had been diagnosed 4 months ago. The standard treatment wasn't working. She needed an experimental therapy. Cost, $400,000. Insurance status, denied. Reason, experimental treatments not covered under policy terms. The irony was so perfect it felt fictional. David Harrington, the man who destroyed companies and eliminated health coverage for hundreds of people, couldn't afford his own daughter's cancer treatment. His insurance, probably the best money could buy, still had the same loopholes and exclusions that had killed his father, that had killed Marcus. Nicole had attached a note to the file. I got this from a nurse I know at Northwestern. Emma's case is being discussed for a clinical trial, but there's a 6-month waiting list. Harrington is trying to pay out of pocket, but even he doesn't have $400,000 liquid right now. His assets are tied up in the business. He'd have to liquidate stock, which would trigger tax events and potentially destabilize his company's value. He's trapped, just like everyone he's ever trapped. Rachel stared at Emma's photo attached to the medical record. A 16-year-old girl with dark hair and her father's eyes. She looked tired, scared, like she knew the fight ahead was going to be hard. Like every cancer patient Rachel had ever seen. Like Marcus in those final weeks. Emma hadn't done anything wrong. She was just a kid with a disease she didn't choose. A kid who might die because insurance companies valued profit over people. A kid who deserved to live, just like Marcus had deserved to live. Rachel's phone buzzed. Text from Patricia. Nicole sent me files too. You see the daughter's diagnosis. Yeah, this is it. This is how we destroy him. We go public with everything. Show the world that he's denying his own daughter the same care he denied her husband's. The hypocrisy will bury him. Rachel typed back. His daughter didn't hurt anyone. Neither did Marcus. Neither did my husband. Neither did the dozens of other people Harrington killed with his business decisions. So we kill his daughter to get even? We don't kill her. We expose the truth. If that hurts her, that's on Harrington. He built this nightmare. Let him live in it. Rachel set down the phone. She walked to Lily's bedroom and stood in the doorway. Her daughter slept curled around her stuffed bear. 6 years old. Completely innocent. Completely dependent on Rachel to keep her safe. If Rachel went to war with Harrington and lost, Lily would pay the price. She'd already lost her father. She couldn't lose her mother too. But Emma Harrington was also someone's daughter. Also 16 years old. Also fighting a disease that didn't care about her father's sins. If Rachel exposed Harrington's hypocrisy while Emma was sick, the media attention could destroy what little privacy she had left. The stress could make her condition worse. Rachel would be doing exactly what Harrington had done, hurting an innocent person to settle score with someone else. Her phone rang. James this time. You heard about the daughter? Yes. Patricia wants to go nuclear. Leak everything. Medical records included. James paused. What do you want to do? Rachel looked at Lily again, then at Marcus's ID badge on her dresser, then at the medical records still open on her laptop screen. I want justice, she said quietly. Not revenge. Those aren't the same thing? No, they're not. When pain turns into power, it's easy to forget who gets hurt along the way. If this part made you question what justice really means, drop a comment with one word: justice, mercy, or truth. Also subscribe to the channel because your subscription and voice helps others see these stories aren't fiction. They're reflections of what power does when no one's watching. Rachel called Patricia and James at dawn. Conference call. 3 people connected by grief and a choice that would define everything that came next. We don't release Emma's medical records, Rachel said. We don't use a sick kid as ammunition. Patricia's voice came through sharp. He used our sick husbands as collateral damage. I know, and if we do the same thing, we're no better than he is. I don't care about being better than him. I care about making him pay. James cut in. What are you proposing instead, Rachel? Rachel had been thinking about this all night. She'd barely slept. Just turned the problem over and over until something shifted into place. We used the evidence Nicole gave us. The emails. The documents proving his acquisitions were personal revenge. We expose the pattern. But we don't mention Emma. We make him face what he's done without using his daughter as leverage. That's not enough, Patricia said. He'll spin it. Make himself the victim. Say he was just honoring his father's memory or some bullshit like that. Maybe. But if we go after Emma, we lose the moral high ground. We become the villains. And everything we're fighting for gets buried under the controversy. So we just let him get away with it? No. Rachel's voice went hard. We make him choose. We confront him directly. Give him a chance to do the right thing. To establish a fund that helps people like Marcus. Like his own father. Like him. He'll never agree to that. Then we release everything. But we give him the chance first. We offer him a path to redemption. Rachel paused. And if he refuses, if he chooses to protect his empire over helping people, then the world sees who he really is. Not because we destroyed him, because he destroyed himself. James was quiet for a moment. You're gambling that he has some humanity left. I'm gambling that his daughter matters more to him than his revenge. That facing his own mortality through Emma might make him see what his choices have cost. Patricia laughed. It sounded bitter. You're a better person than I am. I'm not better. I'm just a mother who knows what it's like to watch your child lose a parent. I won't do that to Emma, even if her father did it to Lily. The line went silent. Then Patricia spoke. Okay, we do it your way, but if this backfires, we go nuclear. Agreed. Rachel looked at Lily's closed bedroom door one more time. Agreed. Nicole called 3 weeks later. He's having another gala. Next Saturday. Peninsula Hotel again. Annual fundraiser for children's hospitals. Rachel almost laughed. Children's hospitals. The irony was so thick she could taste it. Can you get me in? Already done. You're on the guest list as my +1. Patricia too. And I found 3 other widows willing to come. Women whose husbands died after Harrington destroyed their companies. He'll recognize me. He'll try to have you removed. But you'll be a guest this time on staff. Harder to justify throwing out someone who's properly invited. And I contacted Marcus Chun. He's an investigative journalist with the Tribune. He'll be there too, with cameras. Rachel closed her eyes. This was it. The moment everything either changed or exploded. What if this doesn't work? Then we release Emma's medical records and watch his world burn. But you want to give him a chance. This is it. The dress code was formal. Rachel didn't own anything formal. Patricia sent her a black gown that actually fit. Simple. Elegant. Nothing flashy. Rachel stood in front of her bathroom mirror the night of the gala and barely recognized herself. She looked like someone who belonged in rooms with crystal chandeliers, like someone who had power. She picked up Marcus's employee ID badge, slipped it into her clutch, a reminder of why she was doing this. Mrs. Chin watched Lily for the evening. Rachel kissed her daughter goodnight and promised she'd be home soon. Lily asked why Mommy was so dressed up. Rachel said she had important business. Adult stuff. Lily accepted this and went back to her coloring book. The Peninsula Hotel looked exactly the same as it had 3 weeks ago. Same doorman, same marble floors, same ballroom glittering with wealth. But this time Rachel walked through the front entrance. This time she had an invitation. This time she wasn't invisible. Nicole met her in the lobby. She wore a silver dress and a tight smile. Patricia's already inside. So are the others. Marcus Chun is positioned near the stage. He'll start recording when you approach Harrington. Where is he? Table 1. Same as last time. He's greeting donors, acting like nothing's wrong. Nicole's jaw tightened. His daughter's at home, too sick to attend. But he's here, smiling, raising money for sick kids while his own daughter can't get treatment. Rachel took a breath. Her hands were steady this time. No trembling, no fear. Just cold determination. Let's go. They entered the ballroom together. The orchestra played something classical. Guests mingled with champagne glasses. Conversations about stock portfolios and vacation homes filled the air. Rachel scanned the room, found Patricia near the bar. 3 other women stood with her, all dressed formally, all wearing expressions that said they'd lost something they could never get back. Then Rachel saw Harrington. He stood at table 1, talking to an older couple. He looked relaxed, happy. like a man who'd never destroyed 37 families, like a man who slept well at night. Rachel started walking toward him. Nicole grabbed her arm. Wait, he needs to be at the podium. More public, more witnesses. He's scheduled to speak in 10 minutes. Rachel nodded. They moved to a position near the stage. Patricia joined them, then the other widows. 5 women who'd all lost husbands to Harrington's business decisions. 5 women who'd spent years being told their pain didn't matter. That business was business. That the economy required sacrifice. Marcus Chin positioned himself 20 feet away. He had a camera, professional equipment. He caught Rachel's eye and nodded. The Gala coordinator took the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome David Harrington. Applause filled the room. Harrington walked to the podium. He smiled at the crowd, started his prepared speech about the importance of children's health care, about how every child deserved access to treatment regardless of their family's financial situation. The words came out smooth, practiced, completely sincere. Rachel waited until he paused for applause. Then she stepped forward. Harrington saw her. His smile froze. Recognition flashed across his face. The server from 3 weeks ago. The woman who'd given him a note. The woman his team had spent weeks trying to discredit. She was here, in his event, walking toward his podium. Security moved to intercept her. Nicole stepped in front of them. She's my guest, Nicole said loudly. She has every right to be here. The ballroom went quiet. Everyone watching, everyone waiting. Rachel climbed the steps to the stage. She held a folder in her hands. Harrington's eyes dropped to it. He knew. Somehow he knew what was inside. Mr. Harrington, Rachel said. Her voice carried across the silent ballroom. My name is Rachel Martinez. 3 weeks ago I gave you a note. I think it's time we had a conversation. Harrington stared at her. His PR smile was gone. His face had gone pale, but he recovered fast. Years of board meetings and hostile negotiations had taught him how to control his reactions. Ms. Martinez, this isn't the appropriate venue for personal grievances. You're right. The appropriate venue would have been 3 years ago when you decided to get Medi-Supply Solutions. But you didn't give my husband that courtesy. So we're doing this here. Rachel opened the folder. I have documents, emails he sent, financial records, proof that your acquisitions weren't random business decisions. They were revenge. The crowd murmured. Phones came out. People started recording. Marcus Chen's camera rolled. Harrington glanced at his security team. But they couldn't remove her now. Not in front of 300 witnesses and cameras. I don't know what you're talking about. Your father died in 1992. Heart condition. Lost his insurance when his company got acquired. Wellington Medical Group. Does that sound familiar? Rachel pulled out the first document. You spent 30 years systematically destroying every company connected to his death. Medi-Supply Solutions was number 12 on your target list. Harrington's jaw tightened. You're making baseless accusations. Am I? Rachel held up an email. His words, his signature. This is you writing to your acquisition team. Quote, the connection to Abbott Pharmaceutical makes this personal. My father died because Abbott denied his coverage claim. Any company that enabled Abbott's success is fair game. Unquote. The ballroom erupted. Gasps, whispers, camera flashes. Harrington's facade was cracking. His hands gripped the podium. My business decisions are complex. You're oversimplifying. Marcus Martinez wasn't complex. He was a man with a wife and a daughter. He had cancer. He lost his insurance when you destroyed his company. He died because we couldn't afford treatment. Rachel's voice didn't waver. You knew that would happen. You knew people would die. And you did it anyway because you were angry about your father. Patricia stepped onto the stage. Then another widow. Then another. 5 women surrounding Harrington. 5 faces of grief he caused. My husband worked for Chin Medical Devices. Patricia said, you acquired us in 2020. He had a heart attack 3 months later from stress. You killed him. Another woman spoke. My husband worked for Sterling Biotech. He shut us down in 2019. He lost everything. He's still alive, but he's not the man I married. You destroyed him. Another Randall Pharmaceuticals. 2021. My husband took his own life after losing his job. You killed him. Harrington looked at each woman. His breathing had gone shallow. His hands were shaking. He tried to speak, but nothing came out. Rachel pulled out the final document from a folder. A photo. She held it up so only Harrington could see. Emma, in a hospital bed, pale, bald from chemotherapy, looking exactly like Marcus had looked in those final weeks. Harrington's face collapsed. Don't. Please. I'm not here to hurt your daughter, Rachel said quietly. The microphone still picked up her words. I'm here so no other daughter loses what mine lost. She handed him the full folder. He took it with shaking hands. Inside was everything. All the evidence Nicole had gathered. All the proof of his 30-year vendetta. And, at the very bottom, a single sheet of paper. Rachel's proposal. You have a choice, Rachel said. You can fight this. Use your lawyers, your PR team, your money. Destroy me the way you've tried to destroy everyone who challenged you. Or you can do something that matters. Establish a foundation. Medical debt forgiveness. For families like mine. Like yours. Like all the people your business decisions destroyed. You're blackmailing me. I'm giving you a chance at redemption. Something my husband never got. Something your father never got. Something your daughter deserves. Rachel's voice broke. I know about Emma. I know she has the same cancer Marcus had. I know your insurance won't cover the treatment she needs. And I could expose that. I could show the world that you're facing the exact same choice you forced on dozens of families. But I won't. Because Emma didn't do anything wrong. She's just a kid who deserves her father. Tears ran down Harrington's face. He wasn't trying to hide them anymore. The ballroom was silent. 300 people watching a billionaire break. I became what killed my father, he whispered. Yes, and now you get to choose what happens next. Rachel stepped back. The world is watching. What do you want them to see? Harrington looked at the folder in his hands, at the women on the stage, at the cameras recording everything, at his entire carefully constructed empire crumbling in real time. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I'm sorry, he said. God help me. I'm so sorry. Harrington set down the folder. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. He looked out at the crowd. 300 faces staring back, judging, witnessing, recording. There was no escape, no PR spin, no legal team to make this disappear. Just the truth standing on stage beside him in the form of 5 widows he'd created. He picked up the microphone. His voice came out raw, broken. My father died when I was 16. He lost his health insurance. He couldn't afford surgery. I watched him die slowly, painfully, asking why no one would help us. Harrington's voice cracked. I swore I'd never be powerless again. I built this company. I became successful, wealthy, untouchable, and somewhere along the way, I became the exact thing that killed him. The ballroom stayed silent. I've destroyed companies, eliminated jobs, told myself it was just business, just the economy, just how things work. But it wasn't. He looked at Rachel, at Patricia, at the other widows. Every acquisition I made, I knew people would lose their insurance. I knew families would suffer. And I did it anyway, because I was angry, because I wanted revenge on a system that took my father. I wanted to hurt the people who'd hurt me. He pulled out Rachel's proposal. Read it again. Marcus Martinez died because of my decisions. So do dozens of others. I can't bring them back. I can't undo what I've done, but I can stop making the same mistakes. Harrington's voice grew stronger. Tonight, I'm announcing the establishment of the Marcus Martinez Medical Access Foundation. $50 million initially, more to follow. It will cover medical debt for families facing the same impossible choices my father faced. The same choices I forced on Rachel's husband. He looked directly at Rachel. This isn't redemption. I don't deserve that. This is accountability. It's the bare minimum of what I owe. Rachel held his gaze. She didn't smile, didn't nod, just stood there letting him see her, really see her. Not as a server to ignore, not as a problem to eliminate, but as a human being whose life he destroyed. Thank you, she said quietly. Marcus would have wanted this. Harrington broke down completely then, shoulders shaking, face buried in his hands. A powerful man reduced to grief he'd spent 30 years running from. The cameras captured everything. 6 months later, Rachel stood in the Marcus Martinez Medical Access Foundation office. The building was in downtown Chicago, small but functional. The walls were covered with photos of families the foundation had helped. 200 so far. Medical debts erased. Lives saved. Futures restored. Harrington had kept his promise. The foundation was fully funded, growing every month. Rachel ran the community outreach program. She met with families facing impossible choices, helped them navigate the system, made sure they got the care they needed, made sure no one else had to choose between medicine and groceries. Patricia worked there too. So did James and Nicole. They'd all found purpose in transforming their grief into something that mattered. It didn't erase what they'd lost. Nothing could. But it meant their pain wasn't wasted. Harrington came to the office once a week. He never tried to take credit for the foundation, never posed for photos, never gave interviews. He just showed up, signed checks, made calls to hospitals and insurance companies using his connections to help people he'd once have ignored. He and Rachel were friends. They never would be, but they worked together bound by mutual understanding of what loss cost. Emma was in remission. The experimental treatment had worked. She'd gotten into the clinical trial after Harrington made a large donation to the research program. He'd liquidated stock to cover the trial costs for 5 other patients too. Emma had started volunteering at the foundation on weekends, helping families with teenage kids facing cancer. She and Lily had met once, briefly, 2 daughters who'd almost lost their fathers for the same reason. Rachel visited Marcus's grave every Sunday. She brought Lily. They sat on the grass and talked to him, told him about their week, about the foundation, about the families they'd helped. Lily was 7 now. She understood more, asked harder questions. Rachel answered them honestly. Did Daddy's death mean something? Lily asked one Sunday. Rachel touched the headstone. Marcus Martinez, beloved husband and father. Yes, baby. It meant something. It changed things. Not enough, but something. In the foundation office, framed on the wall behind Rachel's desk, was the original napkin, the note that started everything. 3 sentences, 22 words. They'd changed a billionaire's life. They'd saved 200 families. They'd turned Rachel's grief into power. Rachel stood at her office window watching Chicago's evening traffic. She thought about the server she'd been 6 months ago. Invisible, powerless, carrying rage that had nowhere to go. That woman had written a note and handed it to a billionaire. That woman had refused to stay quiet. That woman had cracked open an empire with nothing but truth and courage. The system that killed Marcus still existed. Insurance companies still denied coverage. Families still faced impossible choices. But 200 families didn't have to make those choices anymore, because one server had refused to be invisible. Truth didn't always feel good. It was messy, complicated, painful, but it was the only thing that changed systems, the only thing that made power bend. Sometimes the hardest conversations are the ones that matter most. If Rachel's story resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe for more stories about ordinary people who refused to stay invisible.